we live? Well, maybe. Hey guys. Well, I don't know what's going on. We're going to try and print something simple. So, I was having under extrusion issues, and I don't know why. All of a sudden, I thought it. Maybe I was playing with settings, trying to get it to work, and nothing was working, and it just kept under extruding. Did some cold pulls, cleaned it out, tried another print of the little crazy dragon, and it got a ways into it, and it just quit printing. And I thought, oh, I'm printing it too cold for this filament. So I cranked it all the way up to 225, and it still quit printing. And what I was noticing is every once in a while, because you can push the filament in through the extruder, up where you load things. So up here, take that loose, just push filament in, and normally it'll engage in the Bontex, and you can see the Bontex spin around. I mean, you can push it with the filament, and it'll just spin the gears. But it was not doing that. So I opened the door and cleaned it all out, and the filament would go through, but it was not. The gears weren't turning. It was just like they were jammed apart somehow. So I thought, oh, well, maybe some filament, one of these whiskers or something got bound up in the gears, or was forcing the two drive gears apart. So I went in there, cleaned it all out. There was a little bit of plastic in the drive teeth, and some very tiny stringiness up in the gears itself. But other than that, I didn't really see anything wrong. Although the door was kind of stuck, hard to open. So I pulled the screw out, pulled the door out. I thought, well, maybe the bottom part of the door, maybe it's cracked around those nuts. And even though I'm tensioning it, maybe it's split, and the pivot for the idler is not letting it pull in and get tension on it. But there's no cracks. It's not cracked up by the pivot point. Other than a couple little burr kind of things that might have been causing it to hang up, which I trimmed on the inside of the pocket. I took this top off, looked through there. It's all mounted right. I checked that little short piece of PTFE tubing. That's all fine. It's not binding up on that. So I don't know what was causing it, but anyway, I cleaned up what I could, cleaned out all the teeth, cleaned all the teeth in there. I checked the grub screw. It's not slipping. It's on the flat. It's tight. So I put it all back together, tested it with my filament, same filament I've been testing with all day long, and it grabbed the filament fine, and it seems to be working. So I made a little simple print. It's just a sphere or a cylinder. Down here where you can kind of see it. So it's just a little cylinder. Basically, it's for pushing the 608 bearings into my spool holder, which I took inside. Hey, Brian Vines, 27th times the charm. Howdy. So I was complaining about this no-name Chinese filament, but the MK2.5 is handling this stuff just fine. I thought that the size was off, but there's nothing wrong with it. This is the second set I've printed with that spool on the MK2.5. So it's something in the extruder. It's got nothing to do with my settings or how the MMU itself is doing. It's somewhere down here in the Mark III extruder. And 3D Gustner had asked me how this was printing before, because these are all new. Well, the extruder motors and the fans and stuff are the same, but the extruder body and all of that stuff is new. So I hadn't printed a lot of stuff with it, because the MK2.5 is still rocking the vertical fan. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if it makes it through. I'm back down to 210 degrees, and basically what I did is, if you look, there's a hunk of filament sticking through here, through the MMU, because I undid the Bowden tube, and that's feeding direct off of the spool. You can see it there, yeah. So basically, I just stuck a piece of filament in there, let it load through the MMU, and then I fed that by hand through the Bowden tube to get it to bypass it. 4:40 a.m. Well, so I backtracked it back, Gustner, to the extruder gears up here. Something in there was just letting loose and not pulling the filament in. So this is the first print since I just tore it apart. I took the door off, checked the bearings for the idler, checked to make sure the pin hadn't come loose in the little door. I checked the grub screw on the drive gear, checked to make sure there wasn't filament bound up in there somehow. And I really didn't see much, but I kind of cleaned it all up, put it, rearranged stuff, cleaned off a couple little burrs that I could kind of feel that hadn't really caused any problems before. And then we put it back together, and this is the first print. So far, so good. I mean, the prime line here looks better than anything I've had over the past day and a half. So, yeah, it's going to be a bearing press. So it's just a little round cylinder with a step in the end for pushing. So these things over here on the MK2.5 that are printing, that's going to be a spool holder, but this one comes up to a big thread, and I got to press a bearing down inside there about an inch and a half or so. So I made a little pusher, so I'm not munging up the bearing and the seals. So I don't think there was anything wrong with my Chinese filament. I think it's working fine, because the MK2.5 has almost used up that whole roll. And I got to get one more spool holder done, and then I got to make the bases for the spool holders. And I'm going to go with a counterbalanced arm system for a filament guide, so that this stuff can't tangle up if you're behind the printer. Should be pretty compact and fairly robust without adding a ton of drag onto the filament path, which is my biggest complaint about the Prusa solution. That the MK2.5 is quite loud. Yeah, it's doing the gyroid infill with the back and forth. So, yeah. Well, this is looking all right. Let's see. I can show you my failed failed dragons and my failed 3D fill. So there's Phil. That's how far he got before it just quit printing, and it's not all that great. I mean, you can see a bunch of skimpy layers in the toe part. And whoops, yeah, and along this side of his boot. Come on. Well, focus technology. That's coming sometime in the 30th century, I'm sure. And then I had two dragons. That one's really sad. And then I cranked up the temperature, and it did a little bit better, but still failed. So I don't think it's the temperature. I don't think it's the filament. I don't think it's the MMU. It was just, and it's not a clog nozzle. But why the gears aren't pushing the filament, I don't know. Yeah, the cheap filament seems fine. I can show you some tips here. So I've been printing with it. The green, this one came out a little stringy, long string, but it feeds back through okay. The gold is fine. I don't know if I have any more. No, that one's not too bad. So the tips come out fine, and I ended up using, while it was working, let's see, I got my cheat sheet here. So I'll probably go back to what I had, which was this over here. I bumped it up to 140 because I was having some stringing problems, and they said the slower you go down, so stock's at 100, and I was running it at 100, and it was a little bit stringy, so I bumped it to 140. And it seems to do okay. It handles it all right. Doing 3 cooling moves and upping the speed on the cooling moves and stuff, but leaving the ramming speed down at 2.5 seconds. So that part, I think, is going to work fine. We'll know. Let's see. Well, how long does it say? We'll know here in 50 minutes. Because if this thing comes out clean, it's time for another Commander Phil. A little bit of a wobble, but that could have been where I bumped the bed. The MMU2, yes. Reset. Oh, that's the outer perimeters. A nice circle. So, I'll be happy if it works, because it was loading and unloading pretty good. It was the under extrusion was driving me nuts. So, yeah. So this is a fat profile. This is a 0.2 layer height, but a 0.6 millimeter extrusion width. And so far, infill and everything else is looking nice and solid. Even with it pulling, it's not pulling that hard on the filament roll. Did I build my 3D printer? Let's see. Renewed 0B scenario for this custom firmware. It has some slicer settings to synchronize MMU gears. What? So I'm not seeing that much overgrind. I turned the extra loading distance down to 0, and it does the handoff between the MMU and the Bontex really smoothly. And yes, I built my 3D. Mine, they're both of them were kits. So yeah, I don't think it's. I mean, I know my way around the inside of them now, but like I said, other than the body being new, it should be the same Mark III that I've been using for a while now. It's the same Bondtech gears. The door is new, and that's what I thought at first. I thought, oh, I probably forgot and didn't swap the door with the old body. Maybe I put the old door on and it doesn't fit somehow. But no, it's the new, because it's got the textured surface from being printed on a textured bed at the Prusa factory. So I know it's the new door. So that's got to be it. So, yeah, I mean, Prusa does, for a kit build, their instructions are really, really good. I built models and model kits, a lot of structure kits for model railroads, and I remember the old Campbell kits, which had okay instructions, but you had to cut a lot of parts by hand, and some guesswork involved in where you put parts. And no, they spell it out pretty good. It's, I really enjoyed putting the MMU2 together. That was a really nice, clear set of instructions. They did a great job with that. And I think the MMU2 is fantastic. Again, not want to do necessarily all multicolor models. I mainly want it for filament changes at layers, but the multicolor part is nice. And I saw Walter's stream. He was making purge to object. Yeah, exactly. Read the online manual, not just go by the paper manual. I learned my lesson when I put my the MK2. I went with the paper manual. I didn't look at any online stuff. And when I upgraded it from the MK2 to the 2, I did the S upgrade and the 2.5 upgrade at the same time. I went with all the online manuals, which was great. But yeah, Walter was making purge turtles or frogs or something, and he was saying that he had to add so many of them to be able to absorb the purge, but he was leaving the infill for his purge objects at whatever his normal infill was. And I thought, man, you should at least crank it up to like 85% or something, because why are you trying to conserve filament on a purge object? Just make it a solid plastic object. Yeah, the multi-turtle. And Minnesota Maker, welcome. So, yeah, I've got more projects here for building printers. I've got a Zone Star that I bought a brand new E3D V6, a genuine V6, because I was going to take the Cyclops off of there, because I was having similar situations with feeding and clogging and all sorts of stuff. It's probably not the Cyclops' fault. It's probably my fault, but it's complex troubleshooting. Yeah, it kind of does sound like a moo back there. Well, it's almost done. Well, no, I can't say it's almost done. 62% done with those. $100. Howdy. So, but the parts get smaller as they go up, and one of them's a nut, so it's only going to go up maybe another 10 millimeters or so ish, kind of. So then it'll just be one part printing. So then it'll be continuous because it's all threaded in a long shaft. So it'll just be the whole time. I forgot how tall I made this thing. I think it's 40 millimeters tall, something like that. So we're at 13. So yeah, it's got a ways to go. But it's looking good so far. Looking real good. Put you in there where you can see it. If it'll focus on it, not on the head. Focus in there. Yeah, it's looking all right. Cool. 5 a.m. And we just got back from dinner. So what is it here? I don't know. 7, 8, something like that. I should go get a Henry's out of the fridge. I'm getting kind of thirsty talking. So, yeah. Well, hopefully this will work. The other thing I noticed, so I was cranking down on the tension on these screws for the Bontex, and these it's just maybe a millimeter below flush now, so it's not super tight, but it seems to grab the filament just fine, which is more along the lines of what I was used to. I couldn't figure out why I had to crank it so tight, and even then it was slipping. So there had to be something in there, or that door was cocked and hung up. I do notice that the door, so you got the little washers. If I look at the extruder motor body to the door, so I don't know if you're going to be able to see it with the lights like I have them, but the washer's right up here, and the door is a little tighter down here, so I'm wondering if this hole that bolt goes through has kind of gotten egged out a little bit, maybe? I don't know. We'll see. I may have to reprint a new door. A little idle. If it starts going crazy next print. So what have you guys been working on today? Anybody printing anything? I was hoping to print Halloween stuff with the MMU, but I didn't have it working. Oh yeah, it's looking good. At crazy speeds, but 50 millimeters. Pop-Tart case. Oh, cool. Yeah, I've never been a real fan of Pop-Tarts. SpaceX BFR, yes. That's the boost for whatever. No. Yeah, what's a burly freaking rocket? Well, I'm out in the garage. So, yeah. She didn't like the sound of my M3D Micro, which I thought was a pretty quiet little printer. It did kind of clonk and make a little bit of whiny noises, but nothing like the MK 2.2 or 2.5. Oh, cool. The planetary vehicle, but not the booster. Yeah, I'd like to print a Gemini model with the two colors. That would be cool. I'm not such a good painter. I used to have a Apollo, the old, I think it was Revell, the little moon lander, the command module, it all separated, stage 1, stage 2. Used to have that, along with a Starship Enterprise and the Land of the Giants. The Land of the Giants vehicle. What else did I have? Oh, my neighbor kid, next door neighbor, had the Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea set. I was jealous. But I did have the Fantastic Voyage, the shrinky one where they're inside the body. Is that what it is? Yeah. I didn't have the Flying Sub. The MK42 bed is sitting in a box. I had contemplated putting it on the Zone Star, or I may make myself a plywood dolly, because I do have a Sane Smart ramps board that I could make a printer out of. So I may use it for that. I don't know. Why? You need it? I could put it on I could make a wonderful cat bed with it. I think that would be the project. Upcycling the MK42 heat bed into a heated cat bed. Yes, that needs to be on the Prusa channel of what you can do with 3D printer parts. If you want to get fancy, you could put a ramps on it and have it rock the cat to sleep. Of course, you need trinamic drivers because the cat never sits still for the. Yeah, I saved all the bearings and my old not so smooth rods because they work okay. And the reason I thought I might use those on the Zone Star because it's just got those wheels on a V slot, but they're 2 inches apart, and that makes the bed really wobbly. So the funny thing is that the bed frame that the wheels are attached to actually has the cutouts for an i3 style linear bearing or round bearing and rod setup. Yeah. Yeah, the Mark 42 beds is great. I just, I may order another steel plate, and even though it's not magnetic, I may just put it on there with clips so that you can remove your print without having to scrape up the bed. That would be sweet. I really, really like the removable beds. It's just awesome. I wish I would have gotten more than one with my MK3 though. I mean, double-sided is nice, but that doesn't mean it's a separate bed. And yes, I am using glue stick on PEI. I know. Why? Why are you doing that? Well, because PEI releases when it cools down. And I like my prints to stay stuck when it cools down. They still pop off when you flex the bed, though. So what's an MK 2.3 or 2.4? Is that with trinamic drivers with still 12 volts? Yeah. I don't know. I have lots of projects. I have a laser head, a 5-watt laser head that I got for my MPCNC. And I used it a couple times, but I'd like to make myself a dedicated laser etching or engraving table. It's not really good for cutting, but it does great on wood, for wood burning, leather burning. You cut thick paper, medium chipboard. Cardboard, it will cut cardboard, but it takes a couple passes in it. It's a little too thick for the focal length of the laser. Yeah, and that's so. I haven't printed any PETG on the MK3, but I do print PETG on the MK 2.5. Oh, not too. Okay. Oh, that's, yeah. Okay. So, yeah, the new Pinda Probe, I don't know that it works any better, but I mean, temperature compensation thingamabob is pretty cool. And, you know, I almost put the MMU on the 2.5, but then I thought of it running for 30 hours and having to listen to that with filament changes and whatnot thrown in. And I thought, no, I'd rather have it on the Mark III. And the other thing was that the filament sensor on my 2.5 upgrade never worked. So thank goodness I put the MMU on the Mark III so they could disable the filament sensor. No, my MK 2.5 upgrade came with the filament sensor, but I think I shorted the first one out, and so they sent me a new one, and I don't know if I blew the pin that reads it, or I shorted that one out too, or whatever, but it doesn't work. So I don't have the auto load or filament runout detection. Boo-hoo. I just got to make sure I keep enough filament on there. I will chase that one down when I get this thing working, and we'll get it working. Yeah. So that's one thing I've got to do every once in a while. I remind myself to do is recalibrate. Sometimes when I almost had a mark on my bed as I knocked the two sides of the Z out of kilter somehow on a crash. I think it was a power out or filament out or something. Anyway, no, I stopped the print and I tried to restart it by starting in the G code, but somehow it had already lost position. And so when it restarted, it tried to rehome because it thought it was at Z0 or something and crashed into the print, knocked the thing out of kilter. So then when I started the new print, I didn't notice that, and it passed. It made the mesh bed level. It worked fine, but when it started printing, man, it was way out of whack. Yeah. Of course, after listening to the MK3 all day long, it's very, very tempting to make somebody a great deal on an MK2.5 and get myself another MK3. It's just so quiet and nice. Of course, there is something nostalgic about the Zoom, the old printer. And I can hear it from outside the garage, so I know my printer's working. So we're at 23 millimeters high, 23.8, and it's looking really, really good so far. I think that's kind of solved some of the problem. Okay, groovy. Yeah, I've done that. I've had a print fail or ran out of filament on the 2.5 with no filament sensor, and it just, of course, keeps on printing. And so yeah, I brought the head back, stopped the print, brought the head back down, kind of touched off, figured out where the Z was, deleted all the lines ahead of that, and resumed it. Had a little bit of layer shift because I rehomed it in X and Y, and for whatever reason, it didn't exactly. It was a very tiny, probably like a 0.2, 0.4 millimeter layer shift. But yeah, I've recovered a couple of them that way. And I failed a few times because I started on the wrong line, misread my numbers or whatever. Or where you have a power out and it resets to 0 and you manually bring it up to where you think it's supposed to do. I think it's supposed to be. And get it wrong and it crashes into it. Yeah, I wish I could figure out a way to put the Finda, the ball bearing unit, with another Pinda on there, because I still got the old Pinda. I've got the Pinda 2 on here, but still got an old Pinda. But I don't know how you would get the ball, unless you mounted the spool behind and put the Finda up on top of the ball with the filament running through it so that the ball could be vertical, drop through a hole. That would work slick. Hyperfine bed level. Is that more points? Samples more points and does a finer mesh instead of just 9? And once I get my printer printing, I pretty much leave it alone until it has problems. I just start printing stuff with it. I mean, so here's some of the stuff that I've been printing. Whoops. So these are all leg pockets for my train module guys. There's PETG feet to go on the ends of the legs. New pieces for replacing the old pieces, PLA pieces of my mostly printed CNC. Got more leg pockets over here. So, yeah. And my wife's friend at work wants to know about printing 18650 battery holders. I have Octoprint. Oh, 8 manual bed correction points instead of 4. Okay. I have Octoprint. In fact, it's sitting right there, my Raspberry Pi for this machine, but there's some changes to some commands that you have to do because the MMU, I haven't tried Bed Visualizer yet, no. I had Octoprint hooked up to my M3D Micro and loved it. Of course, M3D Micro was a tethered machine, didn't have a front panel, you had to have it tied to your PC the whole time, so Octoprint was super awesome. And with the front panel, SD card reader, everything else on the MK2, Octoprint's nice, but it's not as necessary. So I kind of quit using it, and I tried to hook it up with the MMU2 unit, but the MMU2 takes such a long time. So when you connect, it resets the printer. It has to go through its little initialization routine, and it takes too long, and the Octoprint times out. So I have to get the upgrades to do that, to change the commands to get that working. But I got to get the MMU2 working first. Then I will get Octoprint and get my. I'd love to be able to. I'll open a porthole in my router so I can watch my printer from work, just to keep an eye on it. Odroid C2 is way better. How much are Odroids? Are they a more powerful processor with more memory? The one thing I did do, so I had a Raspberry Pi 0W I got from Joe Mike Carinella, and I had that on the MK3, but I was never really happy with it. I had the Pi camera, but it was just, the regular Raspberry Pi is slow enough, but that thing was just super slow. So when I upgraded to the MMU2, I pulled it out of there and thought, if I'm going to use anything, if I'm going to use Octoprint with the MMU2, I will do it through a Raspberry Pi. I know there are a couple guys that have hooked it up that way and are getting having good results with it, but I haven't really investigated that far into it. SP3D. Cool. Yeah, well, dry vines, I got enough Raspberry Pis for one for each printer. So, or future projects or whatever. And Raspberry Pi is a cool little rig, you know, for not a lot of bucks. I also have a Texas Instruments Stellaris microcomputer, whatever, and there is a 3D printer based on the Stellaris chip. And see, I was going to get that Raspberry Pi hat that lets you mount Arduino at Mega on a board like a ramps board, but on a Raspberry Pi. But from what I gather, it really doesn't do any more than what plugging a serial port into your regular INC board or ramps board, or, you know, whatever the ramps on the MK2.5 is. It's still a serial communication between the Arduino and the Raspberry Pi. And what I'm kind of looking for is something that where they can share that USB memory card reader so that you can, you know, you send the file to the Raspberry Pi because that uploads to through Wi-Fi really, really fast. But then when you try to send that file to the Arduino, it's serial bus speed, so it's really slow. So what you need is an SD card reader that the Pi can query the Arduino, say, are you using this? It says no, takes it offline, accesses the card, puts the file there, then unmounts, and then lets the Arduino have the card back. Like Flash Air, yeah, except that the Flash Air is slow too. I mean, it can't write as fast. The Wi-Fi protocol on the Flash Air is real slow compared to a Raspberry Pi writing a file directly to an SD card. And that's my dream list. You'd think that one of these hotshot developers out there, because it ain't me, would develop something like that. Because I know it's possible for the two of them to share access to that SD card and negotiate who's got control of it. Because the Pi would only need to take control of it for a little bit to write a file. Now, you couldn't do it while it was, maybe you could do it, but it'd probably be not good. So if the Arduino was actively reading a file and printing, you wouldn't want to wrest control away from it to write a file with the Raspberry Pi. But you could write your interface smart enough that the Raspberry Pi would know that when the Arduino was done with it, it would queue up that file write. So once it got a signal from the Arduino and saying, hey, my job's done, you can have access to the drive, it would go ahead and put the next file there, and then the Pi could take control and tell the Arduino to digging through my junk, and I found an old composite, well, it's the RF encoder, video encoder for Tandy color computer. Just the module, the 3 and 4, outputs on channel 3 and channel 4. I still have my first color computer somewhere in here in my mess. I think it's underneath my desk. I gave the rest of them away. Gave the Owlware hard drive away. The DiStefano super disk controller, or hard disk controller. Or something else like Clipper, where the mini computer is spraying and the Arduino. Yeah, well, I mean, that's the problem with the Raspberry Pi. It doesn't have enough I/O pins. It doesn't have enough PWM stepper drives. It doesn't have enough I/O pins to control as many stepper motors as you need. Even the Arduino, they had to add a second Arduino to the MMU2 to be able to 32 by 16, you're right. Yep. 3F00, if you know what I'm talking about. 3F00 is the hex address of the start of the video screen on the Coco. But yeah, the Arduino would give you onboard slicing, fast file storage, Wi-Fi, a slick user front panel. You could drive a HDMI screen, a touchpad, whatever. So it would become the front end to your printer. But instead of sending it via Octoprint and having to maintain that communication and oversight is cool, but it would be better if the Arduino was doing the file read and driving the printer at the same time, rather than doing all this handshaking and serial communication. You could still write a new firmware that gave the Pi the ability to interrupt the thing, but link them closer than just serial. Give the Pi access to an Arduino interrupt so that it can communicate on a hardware level rather than just on a serial software level. And then make it so that, that's the worst thing that I hate about the Octoprint is you can't connect and disconnect from the printer without resetting the printer. Every time you connect with the serial port, it resets your printer. So if you lose connection, you've got to stay disconnected and not try and reconnect, or you stop your print job. Well, but it may be the 32U4 bad choice. You're right. It would have been nice to have a little bit more. So what are the Chinese clones of the MMU2 boards? I bet you they're just the same thing. But you could make a smarter board if you wanted to. The firmware is out there. It's all open source. So you could put a fancy screen up there with whatever. If Joseph Prusa comes out with an MK4 with the MMU, that would be slick. Put a touch screen, put Wi-Fi built into the printer, have capability of running an MMU on it that you don't have to, make it a plug-in module that you can just plug in. Just like they said that to run the MK3 like an MK3 without the MMU2 being installed, you don't have to disinstall it, but you do have to unplug one of these plugs up here. Well, just mount a switch so you can turn the thing off, you undo the Bowden tube, and feed your filament through. That would have been nice. Why make it so that you have to unplug something? Because believe me, the wiring is tight. It is awkward to get. You can't even get to the little clips because they're mounted wrong way around on the board, so they're facing in away from you. So you have to get in there with a tool to unplug the plug. So we're at 36.6 millimeters. Probably only about 4 millimeters left to go. It's going pretty fast. And it's still looking good. I'm a happy man. Sweet. So those are things on my wish list, my crazy ideas. If I was still 28 years old and hacking computers like crazy, staying up till 4 a.m. every night, eating nothing but Doritos and drinking Jolt Cola, I would do that. I used to love hacking hardware. Anymore, I want machines that work. Maybe when I retire, I'll get back into hardware hacking. All the sugar, twice the caffeine, you betcha. Hey, Jolt Cola probably has as much caffeine as a cup of coffee and all the sugar of a Krispy Kreme donut. So if you have coffee and a donut, you're doing as good as Jolt Cola, except no carbonation. Sweet. All right. Well, let me make sure that my settings are right. I'm going to do a mini. Hopefully it won't disrupt the stream. I'm going to open this up. Get my full print settings. My filament. That's the other thing. I'm not liking Slick 3R. Quit defaulting back to the factory defaults for filament choices when I change printers. Remember my last settings. Sheesh. Okay. Let's add. Dual color 3D fill. I'm going to do a 50% size one just because. Let's set that one to number 3. Excuse me. Scale that. Uniformly 50%'s fine. filament settings. Save that. Later. Slice again. I gotta run inside. I'll be right back. Keep an eye on that print. We got 1 millimeter to done? Yay! It's done. Sweet! I brought refreshments. Oh, Ravines. Still works. I don't know if Power Panic still works. Anyway, had to go in, get my flashlight, and then this is the spool holder that I've got. So it's adjustable. This is what I'm printing over there on the 2.5, and you can see the bearing there. I've already mushed it. That's what that's for. But, so like Gizmo Dorks, small hole, right? Goes on there. Piece of cake. Let's say we got past a really small hole. And narrow too. But it'll hold it. And then we got like this isn't IC3D. Oh, this is IC3D. So this one was weird because IC3D has a recess on one side and flush on the other side. So that sits way inside there. Yeah. So it'll fit that one. Sticks a little bit out on that side, but that's all right. And then my other problem child, for as far as fitting all these crazy spools, is so that's an old roll of Prusa silver or filamentum. So it's got a really small hole, and you see that it doesn't even fit through there. So I had to extend the nose on the nut so that you can get that to fit. And I added some. First one I printed, it weighs a lot more than this one. I added some lightning holes. So it would print a little faster and not weigh so much. But anyway, that's what I've been working on. So now I got to finish the design of the base and get that put together. Let's get this thing off of here. And did it unload? No, it did not unload. So it's complaining up here. If you want to see that, give me a second. I'll put the camera up there so you guys can see. Maybe I can get you up there. Maybe I can't get you that high. Yeah, not quite high enough to see there. You can't see the flashing lights. Anyway, the light's flashing right back here because it didn't unload my fake filament because it pushed it all the way through. So what I got to do is push it back through and hit the middle button, and it ejected it out of the extruder. Now it's got to pull it back through the MMU, and it's going to complain about it because it's going further than what it thinks it should have to. So yeah, we got to hit it a bunch of times. And make it happy. So the Finda has to detect, and now it's flashing yellow, green, or red, green. So I can hit the next button, and it'll pull it back in and park it. Now it's happy. Now it should shut down the print. It cooled the nozzle down, and now it's going to reheat the nozzle up so it can shut off. That's a firmware flaw. Shouldn't need to. Yeah, that's my design. Thank you. It's my design. Yeah, let's see if I can whack this in here. I gotta get a mallet. Yeah, Utimus. All right, so bearing fits all the way back in there, and then you've got. Oh, I took my carriage bolts inside. Anyway, you could get about a 5-inch carriage bolt, 6-inch carriage bolt, and that'll hook it to the arm. I still got a spacer to put there, but basically, yeah. So my idea is that this will support the spool by the center, so it's easier to rotate, and then and it's going to be left-handed since that's the way it sits on my shelf. So the base will be down here with a couple of little pieces of pipe. Suspend this, and then there'd be an arm piece of the upright that comes back here to the outer diameter of the spool, and it will have an arm on another bearing that is counterweighted to be slightly positive. It wants to lift. So, and then it will have very similar to Prusa's little arms on it. So as the filament pushes back, the little arm will cock, and then it will rotate this big arm and cause the filament to point upwards. Instead of just winding around, it'll have some sort of arc to it. At least that's my thought. I hope it works. Oh, awesome. Gustner, have a good one. Hey, we're gonna find out right now. I gotta hook up the Bowden and get my model sliced with the right settings, since I've been messing around with all the settings. And we will start our print and see if the little half height one should be pretty quick. Let's make sure that's, yep. Let's export the G code. Up there. Yeah. Oh, you can't see my IKEA boxes. So all my unopened filaments are down there, or what you're sitting on right here, or open filaments, except for the ones that I've been swapping in and out of here on a regular basis. Lots of orange and stuff for Halloween. Come on. Oh, other way around. Okay. That's back in. That's there. Preheat, PLA, because I'm in a hurry all the time. Load filament, load 2. Load 3. Whoops. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, got a hold of the wrong thing. Oh, come on, you. Dear Lord. Cut that. Okay, let's try loading that again. Load 3. Good. Okay. Clean. Print. All right. Okay. Later, Gustner. dry even during printing. I haven't had any problems with moisture uptake except for this. I've got a spool of Talman, which the guys I got from work, guys in the office, it's not Talman, it's Max Exotic from Leapfrog. They left it sitting out for 3 years, so it's got a little bit of moisture in it. Okay, we are loading some silver filament. Sweet. It's got silver filament coming out. There, well, pushing the green out. Yeah. Readjust this thing so you guys can get right down in here. That's clear. Okay. So printing this at 50%, little fill, 2 colors. Hoping it works. Hoping my settings are all right. It would be so awesome to be printing again. Well, the purge block looks real pretty. Let's see if he lays down his boots. Good. And with the 50% one, we have a lot shorter time to the first color swap. So I think it's only got to do about 4 layers, 5 layers, something like that. Oh, look at them cute little boots. Little boot prints. Oh, wonder what was in there. Wonder what was in there that was causing it to get all gunked up. Because I sure didn't find anything big. Yeah, perfect. Perfect first layer. Loving it. Okay, it says it's, yeah, even this little guy is going to take 5 hours, but we'll watch till the first color change, and then I'll probably shut the stream down and let it go. I'll be in and out all night watching this thing, because there's nobody else here. It's just me. Glad you guys stopped by. I never remember where the camera's pointing. Yeah. Okay, bridging layers going down good. far so good. This is looking awesome. Sweet. Okay, made the first color change. A couple more layers and we'll see if it can make it back to silver. Yeah, I think, yeah. This is the last layer of green. Sorry, I was tweeting stuff. Yay! Okay. Prime, purge. Okay, sweet. See if I can see what the tip looks like as it comes out of there. Yes. Awesome. Tips are looking great. All right. I'm going to end the stream there on a high note. You all have a great day. Here's on me.